Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee on February 11th, 2026. It is 6:07 p.m. Thank you for bearing with us. Those of you listening online, we had some technical difficulties. Hopefully you'll be able to hear the audio well enough. Let's go ahead and start with roll. I'm Chair Sean Callaghy, present. Vice Chair Bergen,
Present.
Member Vicente, Member Kyle,
Present.
Member Mooney,
Present.
Alternate Member Kuhn.
Present.
Exciting to see we have a full contingent tonight and members of the public. This is a hybrid meeting. Viewers are welcome to watch. Public comments are accepted, sent via email to the email address provided on the website. We did receive 2 public comments today. And then members of the public are welcome to speak at the meeting. If you're providing those comments in person, there will be time at the end of the meeting, and there is a 2-minute time limit. That's for matters not on the agenda item. There's also opportunity for public comment for agenda item meetings as well, or agenda meeting items as well. And I'd remind folks that for the public expression portion, we now have a 2-minute time limit. We're testing that out based on our, we'll see how that goes based on the vote we held at the last meeting. So let's go ahead and go to the minutes of our last meeting of December 3rd. Is that right? Is it December 3rd, 2025? So it's 24 on our agenda, but 25. Any members have questions about the meeting minutes? Any public comment about the meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll close public comment. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Okay, moved by Member Mooney and second by Kyle. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So it is unanimous. So let's move on to our special presentations. Item 2, Sonoma Marin Area Rapid Transit Smart District Puerto Suelo Pathway Update. Suelo.
Great, yes.
Yes, I think that's you, Judy.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm Judy King from SMART, and
I'm Ian from BKF, consultant to Smart. Where should we
Yeah,
stand?
that, like,
Either way, on the side of the table.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Let's see.
So you just
Sorry.
move down here. Great. Excellent. Well, we are very grateful to be here today. We appreciate this opportunity. It's especially fun for me because I've spent a lot of time biking and walking in San Rafael because I actually grew up here, and I worked actually as a summer intern in the Public Works Department many years ago with Dave Bernardi. So it's kind of nice. And I currently ride all the time because I ride to the Smart Train, ride to Civic Center. So it's fun to work on a project in San Rafael. So let's see. So there's our Smart Train. Hopefully people have ridden the Smart Train. Yeah. So here, I was gonna say, I know some people are probably very familiar with where this area we're talking about. So you've ridden on the bike path that's parallel to 101, the Caltrans bike path, right? And so you're coming up here. Currently, then there's a choice, right? You can go down Los Ranchitos Road with the cars, or you can stay on the Caltrans path and then go down Marydale Road. It's a little steep, also lots of driveways, cars. So that's the current situation. And then you get to meet back up with the Smart Path. And so what we've done is design, we're at 30% design right now. An alternative, so we go through the switchbacks through the Caltrans property, and then in the Smart right of way alongside the tracks, just like most of our Smart paths. So yeah. And yeah, I took this picture the other day riding up here. So the area where we're going to, build the switchbacks in the path is over here, right? This hillside, the Caltrans property will come off the Caltrans path and go down to meet up with alongside the track. And in May 2022, this is when this feasibility study was done, and there had been work done prior to that, looking for a better way to get, from the Caltrans path. So various routes were studied, and at this time, the path that we ended up furthering the design was decided that was the best option. And so, yeah.
I thought there was
I thought there was,
Oh.
it's all good.
the master plan, public feedback.
Yeah, we'll come at the
Oh,
end.
later, okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Put the order on me. I'll trade places with
Yeah,
you. I'll go
exactly.
up there too. And you can,
And I can advance.
I'll do a point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm Ian from BKF, consultant to Smart and lead designer for the bike pathway project. So I can talk a little bit about some of the basis of design that we've arrived to so far. Like Judy said, we're at 30% design right now. So that's enough to kind of start to get the formings of what the pathway is going to look like, vetting, making sure that things are actually going to work. There's some unique challenges, as Judy indicated, specifically in the Caltrans right away with that steep slope. So I'll highlight some of those and some of the decisions that we've arrived to at this point. So yeah, so actually, if you go back one slide, Judy, let me orient people a little bit because we're do a little rotation. So the kind of squiggly switchback section, as we refer to it here, you kind of have like what's kind of looks like a spoon handle there for the long linear section. So we're going to kind of rotate about 180 degrees clockwise, just so that people don't get confused. Yeah, so now you can see the switchback section, bottom left, existing Caltrans right away in that bottom left corner, that existing pathway, North San Pedro Road here on the right side. So this is kind of more of a CAD plan view format here, where you can kind of see how the alignment is paralleling the tracks, and then really kind of gets interesting once we're making these rounded switchbacks within Caltrans right away. So here's a fun little graphic we've prepared. You can see obviously the tracks, the Puerto Sueño tunnel there in the background. This long linear section is kind of coming into the page from the bottom of the page. That's that long kind of spoon handle. And then it starts to traverse up this really steep hill. The existing slope is 2 to 1, 1 to 1, which if people aren't familiar with that terminology, that's basically for every 1 foot horizontally you're stepping, you're going up 1 foot. So it's 1 foot to 1 foot versus 2 to 1. It's a little more gentle, but still really steep. And so we kind of hit these bends, and you start the rounded switchback portion. So some features I'll point out at a high level, and then we'll kind of go one by one through it. Excuse me, is the existing chain link fence. You'll see kind of making up the gaps of where there's some retaining structures. So this is a steep hill. The intent at this point is at each of these switchbacks where we're switching back and going the other direction to try to catch existing grade and really be at that elevation and then switch back. What that does is, as we get halfway through kind of the straight edge, you need a retaining wall to hold back the existing slope. We're kind of cutting into it and then switching back again. So that process repeats. We have some chain link fence closing those gaps of the retaining walls. And the switchbacks themselves being rounded, there's some unique features there too that we'll discuss. So some basis of design, I think a lot of people in the room are probably familiar with a lot of this terminology. I won't assume that's the case though. So for this pathway, we are able to do the kind of smart standard of a class 1 pathway. It'll be, for a class 1, it's typically preferred to be 8 feet wide for the asphalt portion and then 2 foot gravel shoulders on each side. For the Puerto Sueño pathway at this point, we're actually able to accommodate the preferred 10 foot of asphalt and then 2 foot gravel shoulders on each side. That goes for the entire corridor. So that long kind of spoon handle parallel to the tracks portion, and then also the switchback portion. Next up. For the fence, obviously the exact typing can be determined. We're still at that preliminary 30% design. As the graphic shows, kind of a standard chain link fence. Smart has a sort of standard black vinyl clad fencing as well. It's a little shorter, but would still aid in kind of containing users of the pathway to use the actual footprint of the pathway and not decide to deviate or have a little adventure. And so a chain link fence on the track side for that long linear portion, separating the tracks and the pathway. And then, like I said, closing the gap between the retaining wall systems and kind of the downhill track side of those various kind of stepping switchback portions. The pathway is going to meet ADA requirements. So it's not only going to meet the Caltrans guidelines for a class 1 pathway, but we worked hard to try to make this shared use facility, that the pathway, to be able to be used by all ages and abilities. Part of that, not to go crazy too much into math here at past business hours, but we are able to have a longitudinal slope of 5%, which is the ADA max for a pathway like this. What that means is similar to that 1-to-1 slope. For every 100 feet that you would be cycling or jogging or walking, you would just be rising about 5 feet. So if you can visualize that triangle, that's about the gentle slope maximum that we would exceed for this pathway. That it's particularly pertinent for the switchback portion where we're having to really make up grade quickly. The long spoon handle parallel section only touches 5% when it absolutely needs to at this point. And so these switchbacks, yeah, so we're going to zoom in kind of on one particular switchback in general. That's shown in the bottom left corner. One unique feature to the switchbacks, we got some feedback from some bike advisory groups, Warren, Matthew, and Patrick. And one of the pieces of feedback we got was to try to accommodate a tandem bike movement for those switchbacks, just to accommodate a slightly longer bicycle, larger bicycle. And so, the class 1 pathway preferred is 10 feet of asphalt with the 2-foot gravel shoulders. We actually are proposing 12 feet of asphalt around those bends, around those curves, with the 2-foot shoulders on each side, just to try to better accommodate not only 2 single riders, non-tandem riders that are, trying to go up and down this switchback portion at the same time, but also for that tandem bike movement as well. And so those are some of the high-level design features, retaining walls, fences, making sure those rounded switchbacks are as gentle and accommodating as possible, and trying to uphold all the class 1 typical smart pathway features. So with that, I'll turn it back to Judy.
Great. And I know some people are very familiar with our smart pathways, and eventually we'll have smart, bike path the entire length, all the way up to Cloverdale. But we have 39 miles already completed. Most of it's class 1. And, like right now, we're extending the train up to Healdsburg and able to simultaneously build the path at the same time, which is nice. And that was the same thing we were able to do with the extension to Windsor. So that's that we had just, done already, but now we're in Novato. There's a couple sections like that Hannah Ranch section I'm working on is funded. Also in Santa Rosa between Burnville Road and Airport is funded. And then now getting all the way to Healdsburg, that's funded. So those are the ones that are going now. And then we have some others that are well positioned for grants and they're partially designed. What we tend to do now is it just works out really well doing design build contracts, because often you just encounter utilities or soil conditions or drainage or, so it just kind of, it's tending to work best for, especially not surprisingly, some of the sections we have left to complete are some of the maybe more challenging sections. So, great. So you can go ahead and so these are newly opened ones. If you haven't been on, the up to Windsor, then a couple nice connections there in Petaluma, South Point. Now you can go to Pengrove, and then also Roanoke Park and Santa Rosa are now connected, as well as some people I think have been on the new section there at McGinnis up to Smith Ranch Road. And so we have now reached this 30% design milestone, and at this point, unfortunately, we can't just build it right away. We have to kind of put a pause here because we do need to, get the funding to be able to do this. And the great thing is, like, we have a team of people that work on obtaining grants, and we have been successful with some. So we are working to do that. So, go ahead and, so, we're gonna continue to provide updates. Right now we can answer any questions you might have. Yeah, more.
Okay, so, yeah, does that,
We can go, like,
is
you
that-
wanna come up here? Yeah.
okay, so that's the presentation. Thank
Yes.
you. So, yeah, first what we do is we take questions from members. So it's like member Kyle.
So you said that in the last panel before this one, that you're waiting for some grants to continue the build out of some of the unbuilt out ones, or the ones that are shovel ready but don't have the funding. Is all the build out contingent on grant funding? I thought there was a sales tax extension on the ballot this year. Is it this year? or
It's
did I
gonna
miss it?
continue, yeah, that in June,
Right,
we'll be able to continue hopefully, the
right.
quarter cent. So it's not increasing, it's continuing.
No, I
And-
understand that.
And that we do have that, but there's a lot of competing.
So there's not a
yeah.
dedicated share of, yes, if it's 16% now, and if it's passed in June, it'll continue at 16%, or they're gonna bump it up to 30 to make sure it gets finished, or they're gonna drop it to 0, or
No, the allocation of the funding, like, will, shifting between all these competing things more for the bike paths. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm asking if there's any money that's earmarked or planned to be earmarked in the upcoming sales tax that could go towards those
Oh,
types of.
definitely.
Okay,
Yeah, because a lot of the bike paths we've built have been the Measure Q funding
Right.
that paid for them. But we do need additional funding because, as opposed to when the entire alignment was envisioned, a lot of the costs have gone up since it was, and it's taken longer. So it's cost more than originally envisioned.
it always does.
Okay, other questions? Or,
How finalized are your 30% plans, and are you open to changing them, or is this sort of what is going through? So this project,
Yeah.
our committee has a long history. This is sort of
Mhm.
came out and was first championed by Mayor Dave. And throughout it, we've discussed the idea of having stairs for pedestrians so they don't walk as long. We've discussed having benches and sort of landings for, like for kids or people who are tired who are going up. We've discussed having like lighting in there and shade. And this didn't have any of that. Obviously, all those things are expensive. I don't know if you could comment on that or in your thoughts of adding some of those other amenities to
Oh,
the. to the
definitely.
place.
I mean, it's really at 30%. And for example, like, one of the things is the walls, we have not even that completely nailed down yet. And part of it, we need to work with Caltrans for the wall design because we're on their property. So it's not done.
Yeah.
But it is almost to where we could do a design build contract, I feel like.
Yeah.
We
I-
might want some lighting and, direction and, the stairs are tricky. We looked at the stairs.
Yeah, stairs
I
was
don't know if you wanna
something
address
that,
the stairs.
that some of the other bike groups we've met with brought up, and we kind of looked at, and based on some of the we did a geotechnical investigation, some soils, etc., the added cost of like concrete and forming and pouring the concrete and trying to keep this slope stable, how that interfaces with the retaining wall system. If you're having to, obviously the stairs want to live probably about halfway. It became a little more trouble than we felt it was worth, and we communicated that to the team. And they seemed like that was a concession they'd be willing to make. Lighting's also come up as well.
Yeah.
It's just not, at this point, it's more just, okay, is 5% going to work? And how tall are these retaining walls? Okay, is this still in the realm of possibility? Okay, we're feeling pretty confident here. Let's get the dressing for the salad now would be, I think, but the remaining 70%.
Yeah, and
So,
things like missing the PG&E gas transmission line.
Yeah.
I mean, some of we have a few things that are
And is this
rule
all?
breakers that.
Is this all smart fund, or what is the city's involvement? I see those big retaining walls, and there's, the city council just passed some big art projects downtown at the last meeting. I'm like, oh, that could be a canvas for some mural or something, making, my idea is I'd like to make this like it's like an amenity. This, it'd be like a beautiful spot to go to. That hill is really pretty. And so I like the idea of adding those amenities that like make it a place unto itself and make it really nice as you go through. So I would like to see that.
That's, yeah, and the sightlines, like that was one thing when we looked at some of the options, why we like the current design, because another, since you are familiar with earlier versions, where you kind of had the walls on both sides, and that, then you weren't even able to appreciate looking out at the hillside. So, there's a lot to consider.
Okay. I had a few questions. Is 30% design a term of art or something? Should I know what that means?
Yeah, I can explain. Yeah, it's really just out of the 100% scale. So it's somewhat arbitrary, but typically the milestones for kind of checkpoints as you progress through. If 100% design means ready for bid or ready for a design build, like construction level, 30% is 30% of that.
Yeah.
It's somewhat arbitrary. You could call it
Okay.
45, you could call it 28, and it'd be technically correct. Typically, the checkpoints that are used are 30, 50, maybe 75 or 90, and then 100. So,
Okay, thanks for
And it is a little
clarifying.
gray,
Yeah, fair
because
enough.
I've tried to
Yeah.
really articulate, these the milestones. So.
Have you made any attempt to put dollars to what this plan would be? Is it too soon to even ask that?
Yeah.
12 million.
Yeah, with pretty healthy contingency because we're at a 30% design level. Typically, what we'll do is the contingency, which is like just a tacked on percentage at the end, might be somewhere around 30% at this point, and then it slowly just goes down the closer you get to bid or design build. And so in this case, yeah, we're about $10-12 million.
What's the feasibility of securing that funding based on current trends and sources of revenue?
I mean, it's it would be beyond my pay grade to be very, I think to be overly confident about, where we could get that. And it depends. I mean, like, again, okay, like Sarah Fell might not be in a position right now to kind of meet us with, I mean, a lot of times we do combined funding, like we're doing a project right now, like in Santa Rosa, where some of it's the Santa Rosa funding and some of it's actually a developer's funding. And then, and then it's the Measure Q funding. Plus we also got a state grant. I mean, so a lot of the projects we do, and again, it's, depending on where we are, kind of, oh, can you add something? You know what I mean? That the city wants, and it's actually then sometimes a good deal for everyone, right? You've got a contractor on site and making it one job that does things that were on your list, our list, so it's kind of, I don't want to speculate. I
Okay.
can't.
But is it fair to say you'd probably need multiple sources? It seems like, at least from what I know of Smart's budget, it wouldn't be within the realm of asking Smart to cover it. At least I know there's a lot of uncertainty in the next couple of years, but you'd probably be looking for multiple sources. Is that?
Well, exactly, because I think it aligns with the projects we're doing right now that have multiple sources that are actually being built. And as everyone in this room knows, we're waiting on federal funding for a lot of our projects right
Okay,
now.
so that is typically what Smart does to help with the build out of paths.
Okay.
Okay.
California and local and
Okay, thanks. Do we normally do comments or like public or public? Okay, okay, great. Okay, thanks. So unless there are further questions from the committee, we can open up for public comment.
Behind you.
I have a question regarding just the chain link fences. Where does that regulation come from? Is that a Smart thing or city or county, or because it's just cycling in a chain link corridor is just soul sucking. It's just like, and I'm just wondering what drives that.
well, partly it's who the neighbor is. Like some of the neighbors we're next to are the ones asking for bigger, tall, like for private property. Sometimes they're asking, can you make the fence, bigger and taller, and I mean, and that when it's public property, sometimes we, don't have to make it, but we might be able to make it, like even leave existing fence. There's places where the adjacent owner was happy with their fence, we were happy with their fence, and we left what was in place. And like when you get close to crossings, that's why they do get shorter, just so we have better line of sight.
The
I
back.
don't know if you have more fencing expertise about.
Yeah, I
certain
think the only
places.
things I could add are, I mean, for the section, you know, that like I called it spoon handle for some reason because it crossed my mind today. Maybe I'm hungry, I don't know. But the long parallel section with the tracks, you need for safety reasons, you need the fence, you know,
On
between
train side.
yeah, on the train side. Yeah. For the switchback portion, that was something that some of the bike groups had brought up as well. I've spent some time. I cycle as well, and so I totally get the soul sucking piece of it. It really is usually with fences, it's safety concerns. The other wild card that Judy mentioned with Caltrans is Caltrans has their own set of criteria that's different from Smart's design criteria that we would have to follow as well. That's with the retaining walls. They only allow for certain types of retaining walls. You'd have to apply for design exception processes, which can add months of review time on their side. And so sometimes it's just balancing all those things with if they're pushing for a fence, which we believe they likely will, it's sometimes better not to fight them or to fight them. That's just kind of where we're at with 30% and needing to get all the information. Yeah.
So does that mean there doesn't exist one? Because I'm hearing that it varies considerably, but it doesn't really address his question of, is that a current regulation that Caltrans is imposing, or you're just anticipatory, you're putting it out there because you don't want that?
It depends on the situation and yeah.
But in this situation where there's a hill,
Yeah.
the one we're talking about, what about here?
I think a lot of the fence that on the hill is just, you've got some fairly tall retaining walls. And so just from a safety perspective, you wouldn't want someone to not know that, I mean, so.
And it doesn't have to be a chain link fence too. It could be a railing of some kind, but ADA standards also, if you have like a 30-inch drop from one side or the other, a railing is going to be required. And so it's also trying to meet some of those requirements as well. Safety is usually what drives that. But I think there's opportunities, as we've talked with the bike groups, to they thought maybe the black vinyl clad fence, which is a little shorter, still meets the requirement of providing that separation. It's kind of a nice compromise between like the sterile steel chain link fence.
Yeah, I think it gets to member Phil's comment about, let's make this a beautiful thing, and like where we can, let's try to.
Sure.
But it's
Totally
it's
open to
tough
that.
with the fence, because if anyone who rode on the McGinnis path, like when they first opened it, there were some open sections, but then there was a problem with the airport. People accessing the airport, and it was a safety. So to kind of keep people off the airport, that was, so a lot, we're trying to be good neighbors to all these people, and a lot of times it's our neighbors that say, build a fence.
So you're talking about the McGinnis, the new one. So those are really tall. Do they say like we want really tall ones, or I mean, a half fence would keep somebody from jumping, right?
Bales of
I know a
hay
little
would
bit about
keep
that, but
somebody-
Sorry?
Bales of hay would keep somebody
Yeah,
from jumping.
yeah,
And it would look better,
yeah.
and we'd fall into it.
I can speak a little. It's a little to that, but in terms of the fencing that was directly adjacent to the airport property, that was specifically discussed and required is maybe strong, but in coordination to be a high security fence, which changed the size of the openings of all the chain link and some of those requirements. There was also environmental requirements as well. I'd have to refresh my memory on if that dictated some of the specifics of how that fence was designed, but and then the height requirement as well. So I think sometimes the gaps, if I'm remembering correctly, it was because you didn't have such a steep drop off, you could get away with not having the fence in an effort to try to minimize, because that is a beautiful corridor. That's what I remember, just anecdotally though.
Are there other questions or public comments? Okay, no, then we can take it back to the committee for discussion, committee comment.
Yeah, I think going off on the fences, totally makes sense for any like falling risks for there to be some type of fence along those retaining walls, but with like, I mean, I'm thinking about it's a set of switchbacks so that if the problem is privacy or access, having just a straight fence that's away from it all, like you need to have it paralleling it. It would be a lot shorter fence, and it would do the same effect of keeping that space separate from outside.
Well, the good thing is the fencing is a part that we can often change
Yeah.
very late, actually when it's being constructed, because those new paths that we did, there was a lot of changing of fences, just for various reasons. So the good thing is you have lots of flexibility on what we choose for the final fence. So,
Yeah.
and aesthetically, we all want it to look good.
Just a second Phil's thing, prioritizing design to like, we're putting a $12 million bike pathway and making it look pretty, probably makes sense.
I agree.
Other committee comments? Doesn't have to be about the fence.
Yeah.
I like it.
You only get 2 more questions about the fence.
Glad to see it moving forward.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, well,
Very
really
informative.
appreciated
Appreciate
getting to
it.
be here, so thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so that takes us to our next special presentation, Lincoln Avenue Corridor Study. AI pilot.
Does it make sense for me to be, I'm gonna take this and go to the front?
Sure, yeah. So
Stand
you're
up there.
Michaela Hyatt?
Yes, hi, I'm Michaela Hyatt. I am a
Okay.
senior transportation planner with the Transportation Authority of Marin. Very exciting, smart project. I didn't know that project was moving forward, and I ride that to get over to the county fairgrounds from our office sometimes, so it's exciting. But yes, I am a senior transportation planner for TAM, the Transportation Authority of Marin. Are you all familiar with TAM, really? We are the sales tax authority who administers the transportation sales tax, half-cent sales tax, working a lot on projects, plans, programs all throughout Marin County. The quick agenda of what we will flip through today, provide context and framing as to what the countywide transportation plan is, what the study's background is, context for why we're diving into artificial intelligence and relating it to Lincoln Avenue in this corridor. And then we'll walk through some of the high-level findings and potential treatment options that the tool developed, and then we'll dive into discussion and feedback. TAM adopted the Countywide Transportation Plan 2050. Is everybody familiar with that plan? Actually, this is, yay, awesome. So the Countywide Transportation Plan really lays out this roadmap and defines values, goals, and strategies for how we look at transportation within Marin County, systemically and holistically, focusing really on safety, equity, and sustainability at the core. Within the CTP, for short, there's a lot of acronyms. So if at any point you see an acronym that doesn't make sense, please just start waving. Within the CTP, we identified across the county several different networks, including active transportation networks regionally and transit priority networks. Because of the limited roadways throughout the county to really identify some of these arterials for opportunities of transportation, there are a lot of locations where there's conflicts modally that exist. And so we wanted to explore what the opportunity might be to use something like an artificial intelligence tool to help us reconcile a lot of these conflicts that we're seeing. So while we're, sorry about the bullets, while we are looking at addressing some of these network conflicts, we really wanted to focus on areas where there's super constrained right of way. There's a lot of existing modes of transportation in that area as well, and try to pull on other existing data that we have. But a lot of these corridor studies are really time intensive and funding intensive. They can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to conduct one with a consultant. So we heard about this opportunity to better integrate AI, artificial intelligence, to improve the speed of analysis, to shorten the time frame that it takes to conduct a corridor study, to reduce the total cost. So it's actually $12,000 to conduct the study instead of the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and also save staff time in reviewing as well. So this goal was really to understand what the feasibility and practicality of these tools might be, and in no way represents what our recommendations are for this corridor. We really appreciate the city of San Rafael, Syed, April, and team for partnering with us on this. It's very much a pilot. We are hypercritical of AI and its use in this role at this point, but we do want to start dipping our toe into it to see what the opportunities could present. So please tear it apart if you see anything that is questionable, and you feel like you want to dive in a little bit more. We encourage that, but we have been excited so far with the initial results. Oh, man, okay. I believe there was also a picture with this one too. No, the next one. So why Lincoln Avenue? I'm sure you all are overly familiar with the constrained right-of-way in that corridor, as well as the conflicting modal opportunities there for transit, of course, for vehicular access, of course, for active transportation, both bicycles and for pedestrians, narrow sidewalks that exist throughout the corridor, some high stress crossings as well. So we wanted to take an opportunity to both take a look at our networks and where our active transportation priorities are, as well as our transit priorities, and look at the corridor with all the data that we have available and use this tool for that. So the study area, we wanted to and capture the corridor, but also the residents and the land use in the area as well. So we were able to bring in some development context in addition to some of the transportation context. We're really excited actually with a lot of the mapping that we were able to get from this effort. Typically these mapping exercises and generally just GIS processes take a really long time and cost a lot of money for us to develop. So we're really happy to just have a context ready set of data that we can use and refer to potentially moving forward. But yes, this corridor serves multiple roles, neighborhood access, primary local transit corridor, sometimes relief from Highway 101 as well from a vehicular access standpoint, and then of course, access for peds and bikes. This is a quick time frame, for the process for development. So you can see it took us in total 16 weeks to develop, including a project kickoff with the Center for Health staff. Thank you for sharing the data that you have on this corridor with us to help really lay the foundation of this work, making sure that it's pulling on all of the existing plans, the studies, the policies that are really relevant, both in San Rafael, but also across the county and the region. Organizations such as the Metropolitan Transportation Commission has their Plan Bay area policies, transit-oriented community policies too. So it was able to integrate some of that as well. So a few examples, and I can try to reshare also the PDF version so the bullets aren't just sitting right in the middle of the sentences, but it includes the City of San Rafael's general plan, the housing element, the Marin Transit short-range transit plan, information on high collision corridors as a part of the local road safety plan, the zero commitment. And this is just a few of the considerations in addition to evacuation route planning. Waypoint Transit is the name of the company that we partnered with. They ingested all the data and inventoried information that was relevant to Lincoln Avenue and then synthesized it to ultimately review what the findings and potential treatment options could be based on the existing conditions. I'm going to walk through the findings first and then share some of the potential treatments. So the corridor land use findings, we found we were able to get these wonderful maps, which are really an inventory of what housing exists in the area, what commercial exists in the area, so residential, commercial, and then see how there might be, what the recent development might be and how that pertains to the transportation. As a note, also, this is very much in draft. We are still working on reviewing the final version of the study. So we're coming to you a bit on the earlier side to get that feedback and get that critical lens of what's been reported here. They were also able to conduct parking and daylighting finding. As you're all hopefully aware, the daylighting law passed about a year ago and is now currently in effect. So they were able to analyze where the existing parking is within the corridor, and if there are any areas that may or may not be in or out of compliance with the daylighting. In total, there's over 170 on-street parking spaces. It does vary by curb type and the peak hour restrictions as well. There's time of day parking available, but overall, it does largely comply with daylighting requirements. On the active transportation front, a lot of this won't be new news to you all, but the sidewalks are generally present throughout the Lincoln Avenue corridor. If they're spotty in some places in the residential neighborhood just to the west of that corridor, and there is in some cases higher levels of pedestrian traffic stress due to the lighting conditions, due to the speed of the vehicles in the area. So generally we're seeing about a level of traffic stress 3 along Lincoln Avenue. The smart pathway does provide this low stress alternative. It's class 1 pretty much the entire way. So looking at that as an opportunity to potentially increase public access points, see if that's an opportunity in the future, and access what the spacing best practices are as well. roadway safety design, and the level of service findings, what that is. So it went through and it analyzed the geometry of the roadway, 42 feet, a 2-lane roadway, what the peak hour volumes are for traffic, and what the level of service is through the area, meaning what the average traffic delay is and how that pertains to some of the transit, active transportation, and other elements are. Oh man, that map. It looks much better. It's in this back here. The transit findings. There are 3 transit routes that run along Lincoln Avenue, with combined frequency of up to 4 buses per hour per direction. Fairly frequent boardings throughout the corridor as well. Largely the ridership concentrated in the center of that corridor, but the bus travel time can be longer during that in comparison to the uncongested auto time. Housing context finding, nearly 50% of the units in the area are renter occupied. Their median income is slightly below the county average. There's limited housing production capacity outside of the potential for ADUs, and noting that obviously the density of housing changes whether it's on Lincoln Avenue corridor or up more west in the hills. As a note, the potential treatments and solutions framework that was developed as a part of this study, it's cited as recommendations, but we really want to make sure that these are really just cited as potential treatments. They are not recommendations in any way for the corridor. It's just working through what the options could be based on the constraints and based on the modal opportunities. It also included existing funding awards. So there's an HSIP grant in the corridor, so it was able to pull in some of the ongoing projects and work that is already being done to use that for context for its recommendations. For transit, there's really an opportunity within the corridor to look at improving reliability without major reconfiguration. Transit signal priority can be an opportunity in different intersections within this corridor without having to do too much major reconfiguration. There's not a lot of space for bus only lanes just due to the constrained environment and needs to accommodate parking, travel throughput, and pedestrian right of way as well. But there are locations where things like queue jumps could be potentially evaluated, and then relocating the buses to the far side rather than near side in alignment with best practice. So this is an example of the HSIP grant that it cited in the process of gathering all of the potential treatments for the study. So looking at different opportunities to really target some of the safety concerns throughout the corridor where there have been collisions. So in those locations, looking at installing rectangular rapid flashing beacons or RRFBs, looking at curb extensions to really shorten the distance, the crossing distance throughout the corridor, introducing leading pedestrian intervals as well, so allowing the pedestrians to start before the automobiles do, and then of course coordinating with the HSIP projects. For the most part, the findings did show that it would make the most sense within this corridor to shift most cycling off towards the smart pathway and just increase ultimately the wayfinding. It shows also some of the context of the navigation getting to the smart pathway and presented opportunities where that could potentially be improved. So for each of the recommendations and at each of the intersections, it does include both the existing conditions and then the potential treatments that could be considered. So we will, again, we're working on this in draft, but we are hoping to have a final version in the coming weeks. So we're reviewing that right now. So a lot of the pedestrian stress could be lowered across the corridor by shortening the crossings with pedestrian bulb outs, improving lighting along the corridor, adding controlled crossings where the gaps exist, and addressing other sidewalk discontinued where the sidewalk doesn't continue in the hills. There were also some development and policy opportunities that were included in the final potential treatments, including encouraging ADU build out and looking at considering a transit-oriented development overlay. So ultimately, what the study did conclude is a intersection by intersection summary of both of the existing findings, the existing conditions, and then what could potentially make sense with all of the context of both the background of the existing funding, what the existing plans are in place, the existing development policies as well. And then at a very high level, you can tell that this is not at the extent of like the smart pathway that was just presented. So it's very 30,000 foot and sketchy, but this is something that could potentially be evaluated, looking at places where Redwood Bike Share could add a drop zone and wayfinding towards the path, looking at the far side bus stop relocation and pull-outs as an example. So if there is anything in this study that jumps out as alarming or incorrect, we really want to know that. We're really appreciative of the City of San Rafael staff for partnering with us on this. We are evaluating if there are other places within the county across our networks as identified in the CTP where it could help us work through some of this faster and at a much lower cost than it would otherwise traditionally cost us to partner with a consultant for. But we do want to know if the information is useful, if there's any other way that you see that it could help resolve some of these conflicting issues using artificial intelligence, or what we need to change for this to really be helpful for you. And again, I'm hoping to show the document in just a couple weeks. It is 170 pages. So the one thing about AI is it's not brief. It tries to be very thorough, but we will make sure that everyone has a copy of that. So I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to present. Thank you for the work that you do also for your community.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if there are questions from the board members. Or the committee members.
I have one after more serious questions. Did AI make this summary?
No.
I'm just thinking, I'm thinking of the map, I'm thinking of the formatting issues.
Yeah.
Those are in the middle.
No, unfortunately.
But boy, AI did that, I'm not.
No, I probably should have used AI to take it from PowerPoint over to Adobe, unfortunately.
Not a word squished together and I don't.
So what data was input
Yeah.
into the AI? This is my big
What was the
question.
time frame also for the analysis over?
Yeah, so
Sorry, I missed
16 weeks in total from the start. Obviously, it took us a little bit longer
Yeah,
to make
that
sure that we're
part.
pulling in all like
Oh,
ridership
got
data. To list all of the data that I pulled off the top of my head, I couldn't do, but it's listed out in the document every
Because like
plan. and study.
you mentioned land uses, you mentioned like LOS.
Yeah.
So I mean, there were traffic counts, was it like GIS maps? I mean, so it's just,
Yeah.
all that stuff was just.
If it's publicly available, it
Okay.
pulled on it as it was relevant to this corridor. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, what prompted the use of, I mean, I'm very happy about it, but just, what was the initiative that led to this, I guess?
Yeah, great question. Kind of through networking, we learned about the tool and the opportunity, and we knew that there were a lot of locations across our countywide transportation plan where there were these modal conflicts, and we know that corridor studies are otherwise really expensive. So we really just wanted to take this opportunity to try something. We have an innovation program, which includes set aside funds for things that are innovative in the transportation space, and obviously AI is like taking over the world right now. So we wanted to try it and really appreciate the partnership and bearing with us as we test this out.
Wouldn't that have just been a management decision to eliminate some traffic engineer?
We don't have any trouble here.
I don't know.
It's me and my boss, we are the planners.
Or consultants or planners.
Yeah, we're a very, very, very small team. So we really appreciate these tools like this.
Smaller.
Have you field checked stuff to just see?
I had to walk along Lincoln Avenue to go and see some of the conditions and like walk and see and cross the street a couple times to try to feel the traffic stress. But otherwise gone through with the final results of it. No, I haven't gone section by section. Look at that.
I mean, the only thing that's somewhat similar that I've seen is there was analysis I know that was done of a sidewalk network using AI with aerial photos.
Mhm.
And I think it was reasonably accurate, but it was like 90%, which means 10% is still off, which
Yeah.
is significant.
Mhm.
And I think a lot to do with tree cover and whatever else that could be picked up. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there were any issues that you might have noticed and from what you've seen of the data that seemed to be problematic.
Yeah, we're definitely flagging that as a possibility. Specifically with the parking evaluation, we'll want to go out and like kind of walk and see if that's the same. They did walk us through their process for how they identified all of the different locations. It is largely using aerial footage in order to generate some of those along with standard parking widths. And then using the daylighting assignment as a part of that. They said that they have an AI tool, and then there's two engineers that are really working on it a lot, and they themselves then went through like Street View of Google and like looked at each of the intersections themselves. But they're based in San Francisco, so I don't think they came out to look at the themselves, but I'll need to go and do that. Yeah.
I don't know if you're able to do it, but the city has had some ongoing projects on Lincoln and whatever state of construction. It would be interesting if you could run the data 3 years ago and see what recommendations the AI would have recommended compared to what we did would be that would be a good check. I don't know if maybe you'd have to pay again to run old data.
Yeah.
But it would be a really interesting check to see like how well it replicated the efforts of everything that we've done there. and
Yeah,
are doing
to
there.
see how things have changed over time. Yeah.
Was there a particular problem you were hoping to solve for, or like I said, you said to it, help me improve this or that, or was it sort of just put it in and see what it comes up with?
It was really a test of it to
Yeah.
see what it would generate, like in comparison to traditional studies like this. So part of it is because we know that there's a lot of work that's already gone on, that the city has done a lot of work underway. So in a way, it was to test it and pilot it out to see if it's like referring to the parallel smart pathway as an opportunity. So in that way, it was to test, but also to take a look at our own networks too and try to resolve some of those issues of they're on top of each other in a lot of locations and others.
Yeah, I can add to that. I mean, also, while we were applying for the HIP grant you're showing was one that we've already designed, but we have another HIP grant. And while we were applying, Marine Transit was applying for something that was different than what we were applying for. So there was clear conflicts in what the two of us were trying to get money for. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to test it, because the CTPs like work together and we're like, well, we need help with this corridor study. So that's kind of why we helped identify this location as like, hey, let's look at this a little bit closer so that make sure we coordinate.
Whose plans did it like more?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet.
Then you can see if it's right or not.
Yeah. Back and quick.
You said that it was a recommendation that it would be better for bicyclists to use the smart path.
Mhm.
And what form did that recommend? I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to think practically what that means. Because I mean, the smart path is great. I mean, I use the smart path, but also has a very limited number of access points.
Yep.
And so depending on where you're going, I guess I'm just, you're going point to point, then okay, then it's more apples to apples comparison. But
Yeah.
I guess I'm just, if you can elaborate on the recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of wayfinding to those access points where the opportunities arise. Try to increase access points to that path. But the roadway is so constrained that if there is that opportunity to access that path, that's why I believe it was trying to refer over to that. But we did note that in some places there are like long distances in between the access points where it's less than ideal or less than best practice. So we would need to.
So
That's
was it
for that
trying to
reason.
was it trying to make a trade-off between distance and safety, or I mean, what was it analyzing?
It's a great question. It did include collisions. The distance, it highlighted basically that there were larger gaps in between the access points. And so that's why the part of the recommendations of potential treatments were to see if there's an opportunity to increase the number of access points, but really focus on the wayfinding element of it for the purpose of safety to try to get people out of the helicopter.
It's easier for the cars if you just get them off. The lights off.
Yeah, obviously that's not, but I mean, transit throughput also is huge, the major transit corridor, so it's not just cars, but want to make sure that if there is like looking at the transit opportunities as well, in addition to the pedestrian opportunities, there's a lot going on in the Lincoln Avenue corridor.
Okay, other questions? Then we can open it up for public comment or question.
Sorry, I advanced.
It's all right.
The line.
It's topical. Yeah,
Could I ask a question? Did you use any AI tools out in the field, or was it just to analyze conventional data?
Analyzing conventional data.
Yeah,
we
so
didn't
you
use
didn't
it.
use any AI cameras out there?
No, not in the
No.
field, no.
All right, and you know, every AI system I've used always does a little notice. This data is not reliable.
Yep.
That's sort of not accurate.
We did consult our legal team.
Factored that in.
Mhm.
Could you just tell us what AI system they use?
Their own, they built their own model.
built it?
I don't know what the basis of it,
Yeah.
what they built it off of, but
The group is called Wayfinder, right?
Waypoint Transit originally, so they really started with like transit corridor studies. They're evolving now into a lot of different avenues of transportation studies generally.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, well, we can take it back to the committee for discussion. Okay,
It's exciting. It's really cool and a great opportunity to utilize the technology that can make things a lot more efficient. I think hallucinations are a genuine concern, and I appreciated your initial say like recognition of what this pilot's about, but I'm super excited about all the different implementations that could make government a little bit more efficient. Yeah, maybe the bike path would be $12 million.
if we can do that for
my
yeah, let me echo that. It sounds really promising. I think it would be good to know, what are you testing for? It seems to make sense to just kind of throw it open and tell us what you think, but asking more specific questions might come up with more targeted recommendations, and less concerned about how do they come up with that exactly, where you know what's it weighting and what's it, what's it consider the priorities. But it seems like this could be very useful. I understand why you'd want to pick that 1 mile segment, but obviously there's more to Lincoln Avenue, and then there's plenty of other thoroughfares that have, their own sets of issues at different parts of the city. So if this appears to be something that can be scaled without a great deal of expense, I think it would be worth exploring more. You probably at the end want to have people with on the ground knowledge double check to make sure it doesn't come up with totally, nutty ideas, but you've got a lot of dedicated people who'd probably be willing to sanity check it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a very promising program.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments or?
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Michaela.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
for both taking the time.
So that concludes the special presentations. And now we're on to our other agenda items. So 4A, Civic Center Bikeway from New Caltrans Roundabout to Marydale Road.
And so we have parametrics, Jamie, Jessup, present at 5.
Okay.
Good evening, all. Thanks for
Welcome back.
having us back. Yeah, Jimmy Jessup, transportation planner and engineer with Parametrics. And nice picture. Pop quiz. Anyone know where his picture is? Don't look at the time. Got it. Second question: how do you know this street view image is relatively recent?
I'd be pretty recently.
Construction thing in the middle.
Yeah, it's the construction sign. I don't mean to make it too interactive, sorry. Here to talk about a very small but important project that is tagging on to the Caltrans initiated project at Manuel T. Freitas, US 101, Civic Center interchange. We've all seen the construction that's been out there for a little bit now. And the Caltrans initiated project includes a fantastic design, in addition to the roundabout, which is also kind of neat, to provide a two-way bikeway on Civic Center Drive that extends south of the roundabout at Civic Center, where it kind of hugs Freitas there. But the Caltrans plans extend that two-way bikeway about 300 feet south of the roundabout, and then the two-way bikeway would drop off into the road. So the city has come alongside the Caltrans project to look into extending that two-way bikeway further south. And the city is looking to take that to the next signalized intersection, which is where Civic Center intersects with Marydale Road or Green Drive. And so where the city is now. Parametrics is providing conceptual design support, and it's come up with 2 potential concepts that we'll look at tonight. To get our bearings, we have on the left, kind of the overview. You'll see Northgate on the west of the screen, 101, and then south of the interchange, which is being redesigned here, turned 90 degrees. You see the roundabout, and Caltrans plans to design and provide, you can see some of the markings out there now, the 2-way bikeway at about this point. And so these are some of our conceptual concepts that extend their plans. And we'll talk about these 2 concepts that we have. So the first concept would be to extend that bikeway down to the next intersection at Marydale. And this would, the primary challenge with the 2-way bikeway is eventually when you get down past McGinnis, the bikeway's on the other side of the street. So the 2 sides are going to have to cross at some point in time.
Just to help me understand,
Yes.
where does it start and end on where Caltrans ends? It's the black, it's
Caltrans
the red.
with the black.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Thanks. Caltrans design goes from the roundabout down to the end of the black markings, and then the red markups are just us overlaying with Caltrans design and extending that down to Marydale. So this first concept would facilitate southbound bicyclists from the 2-way bikeway coming back over to the west side of the street in a 2-stage crossing. So this is somewhat of a traditional, you'll cross Civic Center Drive, and then you would wait for the next signal phase, and then you continue with Civic Center Drive's phase, and then you'd be back onto the right side of the street. There is existing video detection that would probably facilitate this. One of the challenges is this right turn is somewhat abrupt and at a bit of a speed angle. Not necessarily terrible, but it's a good extension of the 2-way bikeway. The second concept is a bit more aggressive in terms of facilitating the path of bicyclist travel in a diagonal movement across the intersection. So the southbound cyclists on a separated phase would be able to cross diagonally, and that phase could be concurrent with just a bicycle pedestrian phase and would only be actuated with detected bicyclists as they were approaching southbound. You could also have green intersection markings for cyclists looking to cross on Marydale as well. So the bikeway pathways of travel would be well identified with this design. Regardless, the segment from Marydale going southbound toward McGinnis would, continue on the existing class 2 on-street bike lanes. So simple presentation. Those are the 2 concepts. Here is what it looks like against each other. Concept 1 on the left, concept 2 on the right. So again, you have a 2-stage crossing. Concept 1, concept 2, the 2-way bikeway would then allow southbound bicyclists to go in diagonal movement in a dedicated phase of the section. A bit more signal adjustments required with concept 2. There will be, because of the additional phase, there would be a bit more of an impact on the vehicle traffic operations. But at least for the segment from the roundabout down to the intersection, that bikeway is able to be accommodated to travel with. So this location is the only location where there's a differentiation between concepts. Okay, pretty simple. This is as far as we got, in the city's looking to progress with more detailed design, but we're at the point where they're at least seeking input, and the final decision will be made based on a number of factors, but input is certainly one.
Okay, well, thank you, Jimmy. Let's take questions from the committee then. Go ahead.
Am I reading this correctly that the Caltrans proposal for the 300 feet or yards, meters
300 feet. So
feet, is on the east side going south?
correct.
Do they have an explanation for that? Why isn't it going with traffic?
Well, in a two-way bikeway, there's always one direction that's going against traffic.
Right.
But
right.
the
So
main-
they're proposing just a two-way off on side.
Correct, yes, that two-way bikeway would be separate from the vehicle travel lanes. You have, there's room on Civic Center Drive for one travel lane in both directions.
It used to be two, so they were reducing travel lanes
Right.
for vehicles.
Two per side.
No, there is today, but there won't be.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
Today there's 2%. I don't remember seeing 2%. Narrowing down. Maybe I don't remember. Okay, just so I understand what's what. I'm trying.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Currently, there's two travel lanes in both directions. So they're going to be reducing the vehicle travel lanes and allocating that additional space for that two-way bikeway.
Right.
One of the reasons why it's on the east side of the road is because then it most simply then facilitates movements into the new roundabout and allows that path of travel to continue over the overpass. You can kind of guess if it was here, then you kind of get pinched, and there's not an easy way to get through that route.
Right.
So,
So then my second comment is choice A seems easier to not only execute, but follow. I've been involved in crossways, like concept two.
Why don't we do question
Okay.
before we do
Question,
comment
all right.
discussion?
Okay,
to
got it.
Make sure we clarify. So, Bill?
Yeah, other than being completely out of scope of this project, is there a reason that the two-way bike lane doesn't continue all the way down to McGinnis Parkway and the continued smart path and the Marydale crossing to avoid this situation? Other than out of scope and
Maybe I
expense?
should answer. So
Yeah.
just it surprised us that Caltrans dropped a two-way cycle track in the middle of the road. So we wanted to quickly, because they're in motion, want to quickly bring it to the intersection and so on. So this is a quick project.
And then long-term would be
Yeah.
the other half of this.
Well, and Smart's working on their, for lack of a better term, kiss and ride area too.
Yeah,
So
sure.
trying to figure out what they're doing on that open.
But that's on that
property.
other side.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
But then also trying to figure out what we're gonna do on the South Marydale path. So there's other things that we have going on that are gonna affect that. So yes, someday.
Long-term, you envision a connector.
Correct.
Likely.
And
to-
I would say more likely like when we slurry or pave. Like,
Oh.
because usually when we do this project, we look at
Yeah.
doing more improvements, and so this is like, get here, and then the next is like, when are we gonna do this road so that we can look at more stuff. Right,
Also
yes.
moving the cycle track on the other side is just as you said, it's taking it out of the off-ramp traffic.
Right.
And then it connects to Redwood Highway and also.
So then knowing that this is, I don't want to say a temporary, a sort of quasi-temporary state, is there a large cost difference between these two options? Do you envision? Is it like all new signals to accommodate this signal two, concept two?
It is with the scope of quick project, doable both.
Both,
However,
okay.
as Jimmy mentioned, concept two requires signal work, more impact on vehicular traffic. If you allow that kind of movement for ped and signal, it's all
Sure.
exclusive phase. Just bike and ped go, no cars move any direction.
Because I don't know anything, is signal work cost money, or is that you just hit a button on the signal?
So wire, you have to connect the wire.
That costs money.
Adding wire,
Okay.
adding bike signal. Specific streets section, I think, and some wiring. And
Final question, what does Michaela's AI say? Sorry.
Do we know what how that intersection's operating and like what the impacts would be on LOS? with the two alternatives?
We, part of the study we didn't do,
Okay.
and we have no camera to look at,
Oh.
but observation, yes, uh, it's kind of light in the PM, you see some traffic, especially when there's a problem with the freeway, then everybody moves it.
Right.
But otherwise, based on our observation, it's,
It would probably be acceptable
acceptable level.
either way.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
For the second concept, do we have anything like that in the city currently? Would this be sort of an experiment?
The city, yeah, you're probably familiar and
Yeah, I know the Sausalito
Bridgeway and
Mike's
Gate
by-
6,
yeah.
Sausalito,
Yeah.
and that's a much heavier traffic interchange.
Yeah.
Maybe. But nothing else in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Generally, this exclusive phase for pet has to be really an intersection near university or school, which a lot of pedestrians.
Yeah.
So you stop everybody in here. So I haven't seen this city but usually around universities.
Yeah. Would we risk backlash if we were to put that kind of thing in and drivers felt it was wasting their time?
Would be.
Yeah.
We saw what happened with carpool lanes recently. Okay. Fine. Okay, any other questions from the committee? Then we should open it up to public question or comment before we take it back. Sure, why don't we start in the back?
I just really wanted to add a little bit of context, just because I used to work in that business park there. And it was that street is not inviting to pedestrians or bicyclists currently in any way. But also I will just note that Marydale is the only exit for that business park, and I worked for a 300-person video game company there, and we only took up 2 floors of that single building. So I'm guessing there's probably potentially over 1,000 employees possibly in that entire business park. Now, not that it has that total capacity and use anytime in any recent past, but that just to know that's probably where most of the traffic's going to end up. I do sometimes drive that section. I'm up on those exits for my kids' schools, and sometimes head to Cafe 4040 over there. But yeah, I don't think many drivers would be upset with it, but I certainly do feel like visibility on concept 2 is nicer. Just because, a lot of that, at least my experience, anecdotally, that right turn is the most heavily used pathway.
This one.
Yeah, that one right there. It is the most heavily used pathway other than going straight. Yeah.
Isn't there a proposal to convert one of these buildings right around there to residential?
Yeah.
So has that been factored into the analysis here, or is that too far off to really be material?
No,
AI
that
projection.
actually, their analysis shows that they're reducing because they're changing office to residential.
Yeah, okay. Less daytime traffic. Kind of thing. Okay, great.
So I have another question, if I may.
Sure, yeah, we can kind of blend.
Concept 2, the diagonal crossing in concept 2, to me seems like it ought to accommodate two-way traffic, because people that are traveling on Marydale, like from Northgate Mall, will need to access that path. We'll need to get onto that bike path.
Yeah, true. True.
So I don't think we should forget about that. I mean, obviously there's other
Right.
ways to get onto the path and the smart path and all those plans. But I think that's just worth thinking about.
Especially with the Northgate plan.
Are you thinking this is all quick build or some concrete there? I'm thinking of the like a protected intersection, like the city, like we have at Grand and 4th, 5th, mid, whichever cross street we're at that we've done. The reason I think that it's nice to be consistent citywide, if that's the plan.
I mean, this is quick build, right?
Still
I
quick
mean,
build,
this,
yeah.
I think, like I said, with the other section, I think it'd be evaluated with a larger project, like
Yeah.
if we're coming up from.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want those islands in the future.
We haven't ruled out the idea of some kind of channelizer bollard to put along Civic Center and Caltrans and also our extension, but not to the degree of Grand.
Yeah.
Those are massive bollards. So that is an option because we have a gap between vehicle or just striping, Caltrans show striping, so we could put some channelizer there too. That could be also as part of the quick build. So everything here we consider something fast, something quick.
Okay, was there one other public?
Yes,
comment? Go ahead.
I live close by here, so I walk this area all the time. And on that second option, is that a no turn on red? There. Go down Civic Center Drive. On the second option.
Coming down
At the end of the diagonal.
Oh, right
Yeah.
here, okay.
So Marydale to Civic Center Drive.
Marydale turning right on the Civic Center Drive
Yeah,
this way.
is that a no turn on red? It would be a no turn on red.
It would not be a no turn on red. Or it's not, that's not necessarily part of this proposal.
Okay, so you could still turn on red if you were
If you were a
driving
vehicle.
car. A vehicle.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
If there was no bike.
Yeah, right.
Once the
If you're
bike,
not looking,
You're not looking,
you're not trained to look.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
looking to the right.
Just because I think you might have seen this. as
Yeah,
part of the
I did
design.
see that.
We would put a turn restriction where you would include a bike box. So for instance, this right turn movement, we would either have a no
Yeah.
turn on red or, you know, when bicyclists present, or we think about some way to protect bicyclists who are waiting in the like turn boxes.
Could you go back to the other?
Yeah.
So in my experience with this, often that it goes in phases down that road. You can have periods when there's no traffic at all, and then you'll get 3 or 4 cars coming through. Often bicyclists will just blow through a light. You know, they won't stop if it's red and there's nobody around anywhere necessarily. So that diagonal makes me a little nervous coming across there. So I'd be more in favor of option 1. It's a move you don't, we're not used to it, that move is
Yeah, is
not-
there any data on
Yeah.
diagonal crossings in America? Cause I mean, maybe another country, but
I mean,
it feels better, the diagonal one.
yeah, it does.
But
when-
I think your point about the right turn, I've driven that so many times and like turning while somebody's crossing, it's just.
I think
really-
because we're just not used to it.
Yeah.
We're not familiar with that happening.
Don't forget there's a roundabout up the road.
Improvise.
That's what we use those around.
America
I-
anymore.
Right, approved.
Briefly, I would like to append to my comment, if there was a no turn on red there, I don't have a preference, 1 or 2, honestly. If there's a no turn on red from Marydale onto Civic Center Drive, this would be west, pointed down, that direction. I think that would be reasonably safe for either of those, but that would be my concern, is that movement of traffic.
Okay.
I guess the question I would ask.
One more
Oh,
public comment.
we have one more public
Just one
comment,
more
yeah,
thing.
and then we'll take
I
it back.
guess the thing would be, you're gonna have to get across the street at some point. So is it here or is it farther down at McGinnis? Or, at the Civic Center somewhere, but there's gonna have to be a crossing, right? Cause you're gonna want to, because the farmer's market's gonna be over there and
Yeah.
the Civic Center and.
Yep.
You don't wanna hit that very good.
Yeah.
Smart.
Oh, yeah, and the smart, yeah, of course.
That would be that would be the point where.
Yeah.
Do it.
And then past the tracks, the two-way bikeway is on.
Right,
Yeah.
it's already on, it's on the other
There's a
side.
nice crosswalk down there.
Okay.
Well, it's on both. Oh, yeah, on that, but it's also like McGinnis, the whole new McGinnis stretch.
Right, that's on
Up
the left.
like a park.
So next block down.
That's why I think like, long term with this, if you just simply just doubled the project and did it all at once, it would be very smooth.
That's right.
But yes.
But I guess my question
Okay,
is,
yeah, so-
let's say we, went with the one on the left, the 2-stage crossing. I don't know what the phasing is like. Are people likely to follow it, or are they just gonna cut across the diagonal anyway?
Yeah,
I mean, if it's really clunky enough, I think people are just gonna ignore it and, assuming the traffic is clear. Because we already see it at Second Street.
That's a good point.
Yeah, people are
Um,
gonna do it.
Ask
Oh, like by
AI.
the transit center, getting across the gate.
Yeah. I'm not seeing,
Another-
I'm not seeing
another-
anybody do this.
Another temporary solution, but I'm,
Yeah. But that has a lot more traffic.
Yeah.
And I guess my other question, April, is you were saying that the future part could be done when, as part of resurfacing. Any idea what the time frame might be for that? You're talking 2 years, 4 years?
I don't think it's in the 3-year plan. So
So-
outside
so
of
it's gonna
3
be a
years.
while.
But you never know with, when we were talking about like the South Marydale connector project and. You know, the grant funding, talking about maybe doing like that project to South Marydale and connecting Northgate and potentially here, like we could do. Like the last ATP grant we did, which was like kind of like a spider web of like, let's connect everything. So that's something that we are trying to figure out, so it could be sooner if we tie it to one of those grant funded projects.
Just one more comment to address your earlier question, Phil, about this left turn movement. We would have this dedicated bicycle signal in option 2. Would just be for this movement. And it would be actuated on detection of bicyclists coming southbound. So you wouldn't have the same actuation for bicyclists coming across Marydale to then make that diagonal. You wouldn't trigger a specific phase.
they would just go
for
to
this
left turn lane
So
with
that's
cars.
That's why they would. You could either take a left turn with a car, or you could make a 2-stage. But with this design, you would try to minimize the dedicated phase actuations, and so that left turn wouldn't necessarily go with that phase.
Would that include northbound Civic Center Drive bicyclists? That they wouldn't have signaling available to them?
No. If you're coming northbound, then you would go with the.
Oh, sure,
through
yeah,
the
with traffic,
movement.
of course, yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Brief comment.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the no right-hand turn signal needs to be on that, on Marydale turning onto Civic Center, going south, more than coming west off of Marydale, going north.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment.
Because you're on the right-hand lane anyways, and people hanging a right, I don't see it.
Very, why not both?
Even better.
Didn't it start from like preventing emissions and cars idling? The right turn on red? Well.
You can have cultural superiority over the rest of the
Oh,
country.
yeah, with the gas and gas spikes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's done to control
Yeah,
emissions
that's the
and
hint.
it increased pedestrian fatalities, so. I think we can spare a few tons of carbon for some lives.
Are you hoping for a recommendation? I feel like all we did was just poke holes in all these things. Do you need a recommendation? Yeah. Do you want us to?
Well,
weigh
we
in?
still have
I
a few
don't know
more
that-
things to look at. We're gonna take a look at the capability, the signal controller. And try to get a rough estimate of, what these designs could look like in terms of impacts on traffic. And so, this has been very helpful, thinking about the right turn restrictions.
The
Additional movements
discussion is
have thought.
helpful, the feedback is helpful.
So we'll see you back here in 4 months.
Do it again.
All right.
Or you can,
It's just quick, Bill.
you can see it.
It has to be
you can
really-
see it in the field.
Yeah.
You can consider all the cons.
The other thing I was thinking about was just your last comment about that there wouldn't be actuation coming from Marydale. And it's like, if I was riding there, I was thinking, wow, that would not be intuitive at all, that I would need to do that as a 2-stage crossing. Because you wouldn't, unless maybe if you had a crosswalk, then it gets to be a real mess.
Yeah, exactly, right. Green marking's coming this way, and then a true net. So
It does seem to me like concept 1 is more consistent with what we have started to do other places in the city. I don't know that I would follow it myself, but it's consistent.
But people would understand it.
Yeah. I have no strong.
great.
Is there no crosswalk on the south side of Civic there? Yeah,
Correct.
because of the right turns, the free right turns or something, or is there?
It's Marydale overpass. I don't think has a
Yeah,
crosswalk.
I don't think there's a
There's no
sidewalk
beds.
on the south side of
sidewalk.
Marydale.
On the bridge.
The bridge.
Very helpful. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is there, I think we would need a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
All right, thank you. And second. All right, all in favor? All right. Thanks. All right, so that takes us to agenda item 4B. Canal Boatyard Urban Park Connection Project. So,
We have a slide.
We do.
Looking at the project manager.
all right, great. Would you please introduce yourself?
I will, as soon as I figure out how this thing works.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Good evening, John Thomas. I'm a senior project manager with San Rafael Public Works. This is not as exciting. We don't have a fun project for you guys to poke holes at or otherwise talk about, but so the project that we're talking about here, I don't know how much you guys read in the papers, but the city was afforded an opportunity to purchase the land at 620 Canal. It's the end of Canal Street on the water on the canal there. There's been a lot of different plans within the canal neighborhood for various types of improvements, one of which is a desire for a park. And so when this opportunity came up, Trust for Public Lands, County of Marin, City of San Rafael, and other private donors came together to put together the money to buy this property. It's the first time it had been for sale for almost 90 years. So this was just an opportunity that I think all involved felt we couldn't pass up. So now we have the property. The city, the property was transferred over to the city. April received the keys a few months back, and all that goes along with that, which means more maintenance, etc. But obviously now the next steps are figuring out what we're going to do with that. And part of why I'm here tonight is the city is pursuing a grant. That grant requires that a complete streets checklist is developed and presented to the Bicycle and Ped Advisory Committee. So that's why I'm here. So there's lots of other things. One of the other key elements that I think that's probably of interest to everybody here is also the city has been contemplating a crossing of the canal at this area. And this site will provide for the sort of southerly or abutment and launching point for something like that in the future, should the feasibility study prove that we can move forward with that and it's something we can fund. So there's lots of other potential benefits that come along with that. One of those is that this would provide for a kind of a safer, shorter connectivity for the Bay Trail. There's sort of a missing link in the Bay Trail throughout this area here. And so we would be able to, together with some other improvements along canal, and with this connection, be able to make a more streamlined Bay Trail connection in the area. So from that point forward, what I have is the checklist itself. You'll have that in your packet as well. I don't want to go through and read these things. This is sort of the summary that we just talked about. This is a former boatyard, and so we have lots of things to do with this boatyard: clean it up, raise it to deal with climate adaptation and settlement issues and the like that are in that area. But also, in the future, have a park that all can enjoy and use and provide connectivity between the Canal District and all the areas to the north. The checklist asks about various plans that have been in place. This goes through and summarizes all of them. Again, I'm not going to read all of those. If you have any questions on them, April probably knows much more about them than I do. So does this contain segments of the regional active transportation network? So again, this goes back to if the canal crossing is constructed, we could include either a pedestrian and bike swing or lift bridge over the creek. And we're looking at that again. We're hoping to put the RFP out later this month. So that's kind of an exciting parallel process that's going on. is this on the high injury network? This project itself is not, but it would afford bikes and peds an opportunity to avoid other areas which are, and that's the area, the way that we talked about earlier and the access areas. Does this seek to improve bicycle and or pedestrian conditions? Again, with this project, it can, and this is giving us that opportunity. Are there transit facilities in the project area? I go through the several Marin Transit and Golden Gate Transit or Golden Gate Transit opportunities that there are, but those are over on Francisco and a couple of blocks away near a canal. Again, there are no direct effects to the transit agencies, so no notification has been made. Is there a MTC mobility hub in the project area? No, it's not as far as I'm aware.
What is an MTC mobility hub?
Great question.
I don't know how to answer that. But there is one under Heatherton. Like,
what is it?
What is it?
Like, is it an acronym for something?
What MTC is an
Metropolitan.
acronym,
Oh,
but a
okay.
mobility hub is, I don't know, do you have a good definition? I mean, the one that's underneath Heatherton is like where there's parking, there's EV, there's bike parking, it's right next to transit. It provides like,
So it's a term of art for a pretty sophisticated thing. Okay, that's
sure.
fair enough. Sorry to interrupt.
So as far as future designs are concerned, we will adhere to the various design standards that are out there and pull from those. Will this project improve active transportation in an equity priority community? I think as you all know, the canal neighborhood is an area of constant need, and this project, both projects actually can provide some of those improvements. So lastly, this is that step of asking for your review. Any comments and questions, happy to take them.
We are supportive of your project.
Yeah, go ahead.
Seems like the answer on a lot of these checklists is that bridge is really going to be helpful. That bridge is really going to solve this problem.
That's because that's my project to work on, so yeah.
So is the property really a park, or is it really the launching pad for the southern tier of the bridge? Not that I care, I think both should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's really anticipated to be both.
Yeah, it has to be a park.
Yeah,
we actually
has to be a
deed
park.
restricted. The property has to be a park.
And is there any restriction against putting a foot of a bridge on there?
No, it just has to be. Part of it has to be a park.
And how much environmental remediation has to take place? I would imagine a ton.
Yeah, they did an initial study and it didn't indicate that it was as
No.
bad as I would have expected. I would have thought the same.
There's
So-
a nice,
considering
there's a
the
nice
chemicals
concrete
they
cap
use.
over the top right now.
What's that?
There's a nice concrete cap over the top right
That's
now.
true.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might.
And we're more than likely gonna raise the site, as well, so.
Bury all the toxins.
Capping is a well-used
Yeah.
approach.
Okay, those are my questions.
Is there gonna be some kind of community input or committee on what the park's amenities should
So
include?
there will lots,
So
yes.
we're
yes.
not there yet.
Yeah.
It's funding to do that,
That-
right?
Exactly.
I
We don't have any money right now.
Got
We
it.
bought a property and
Yeah, and Trust for Public Land is actually wanting to work with the city to move forward and help find money for the project in addition to these grant opportunities. So really excited about the opportunity.
Is there any thinking around connecting? Because Harbor, those 2 blocks from Francisco over to Harbor are not, they're a bit stressful. They're not very well. I cycle those all the time and I don't love them.
Yeah.
They're a little wide, little fast. And then the stretch along Canal Street is then narrow with parking and people coming in and out of driveways all the time. So, and the
Yeah.
sidewalks there are less than ideal. So wondering what the thinking would be around those adjacent blocks that would be the most natural access.
so there is a project
Yeah, with
on
ATP.
Canal Street.
Grays ATP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that project is, part of it's undergrounding all the overhead line,
Right.
which will take away the poles out of the sidewalk, which will be helpful. There's supposed to be a bike boulevard, so some traffic calming along Canal Street to make it more bike
Will that-
friendly.
I know that goes from Medway up to Kerner, does that also include Medway to Harbor? Those two
It
blocks?
might.
'Cause those are sort of a different
Yeah.
character.
It might.
Okay.
I mean, I think we could consider in the feasibility study going beyond the bridge to how do you get to the bridge?
Yeah.
I don't know, we're still writing the RFP.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think especially if that project ends, if Gray's project ends near Medway, then we look at
Yeah.
what improvements we would need to make the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great, other questions? No, then why don't we take any public questions or comments before we come back for any discussion? Okay. Nothing from the public, okay, any discussion or further commentary from the committee?
Bridge is the way to go.
Would it be helpful in our comments to say we are supportive, if anything like that, or you just have?
I don't think that ever hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited. I live near there. I'm very excited about this idea. The bridge or no bridge, obviously bridge is better, but the park too is a really wonderful thing because, you know, it's a way to get people out to the water in a nice, you know, a nice setting. The Pickleweed Park doesn't have, you know, direct water egress,
live there too.
especially with the plans that are in play. So, yeah, so I think it's wonderful, very supportive. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great project that it connect a lot of students, this large student population to the high school.
Yeah.
They've just, they can't remember if there's a crosswalk on that intersection to the road we talked about last meeting on the right once you get onto the other side, but the closest one would be going all the way up to like kind of start in Montecito. That crosswalk to the high school was built there because students would just, I went to high school there and we would just jaywalk across. And
They added the mid block with the Z crossing. Yeah,
that was put there
That's a
because
good
of,
one.
yeah. I
it's a
mean,
natural crossing point for students to go to the. And I'm just curious if the same thing will happen with the bridge.
well, I think the feasibility study is
Would put a
what we're
crosswalk.
looking to address, because one of the thoughts I have is whether or not we would want to touch down in the high school parking lot,
Oh,
like come across San Pedro.
cool.
that would be awesome.
Because I think
Great.
to what your point is,
Problem
the
solved.
Yeah.
the student population
Yeah,
going
they'll
across
walk
there
across.
is very large,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
it would be a
That's
nice
a
amenity.
cool
But
idea.
we'll have to see if it's feasible.
Yeah.
That's one solution. There's a lot of people who commute by bicycle from that neighborhood though, and they're going up Francisco Boulevard now, and it's deadly, as you know. So going over a bridge would make a
Yeah,
lot of
way
sense,
better.
right downtown.
Safer, more direct.
Do you have it's probably too early, but do you have a sense of, I mean, there's a harbor right there, right in Sangerfeld Creek,
Mhm.
as far as anticipated. So I think it's super exciting to have like, who was the group that came and presented? They did the circular pedestrian bridge
yeah.
in the Netherlands.
Right, right.
There's an engineering
That was,
firm.
wait, wasn't that,
Yeah, they did some really
Yeah,
cool, like
right.
swing bridges and things, but just wondering how much activity is how many of those boats are gonna be going in and out?
Oh, April's been wondering that too.
yeah, so the reason it's feasibility study is because we have to work with, like, the Coast Guard. It regulates how much that bridge has to be open to boats. We're hopeful it's similar to something like Petaluma, where someone has to call and it takes 4 hours to open
And
it,
that's
but
how
they,
San Francisco's lift bridges are as
but,
well.
but they could, I mean, the boating community is very vocal, so we just have to wait and see kind of
Well,
as
that
part
one
of
that dealt, whatever the engineer, you just push a button and it would like.
True, there,
Yeah.
and then the other part is
You
like,
still have
there's,
to have somebody there.
yeah, there's staff, there's maintenance, there's just things we need to explore before we
There'd have
commit
be
to
a
a like
time.
$30 million
Is it an hour, 2 hour response time?
New asset.
Whatever it is. So you'd have to dispatch somebody there who has training, can close it down, make sure nobody's on it and safe.
In Petaluma, I've availed myself of that. It's not as fast or as logical as you'd like, and then they
Yeah.
call you, I'm running late, I'm gonna open it for you, but not right now. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are things to be desired, whereas with the smart train bridges, there's a tender on duty who you just call and they open it for you, right, as long as there's not a train coming,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, like the harbor down there does not seal it. Most of those boats are liveaboards or derelicts, frankly,
Yeah.
so. you know, people will claim they need it to be open all the time, but it's
It's far enough.
past
up the
Lowry
creek.
Harbor where there's a
Yeah,
lot of traffic.
exactly.
There's a dry dock background, right?
But I think the other thing is to make sure that the bridge is high enough so at high tide, you know, a regular pleasure boat can go underneath it.
Yeah, right.
It's just the ones with the masts that are gonna be the major problem, or some giant, you know. If Bezos brings his boat in there, we might have felt.
I don't think that thing's gonna fit in the canal. No, I've got a lot more dredging.
Can I move to accept this report with with some supportive, that we are supportive endorsement?
Build the bridge, build the
Thanks,
bridge.
John.
All right, motion, I'll second.
Okay,
All in favor? Great, well, thank you very
I'd
much.
like to make a motion that the committee take a fact-finding trip to the Netherlands to.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so that takes us to 5, staff liaison.
That would be me, although the Francisco Boulevard East and Grand Avenue Hall turned on as old news, but it happened after our last meeting. So on December 15th, it was activated. So far, the comments are positive. The striping is paint temporary because we have to do the asphalt slurry and the weather is not. So once we do the slurry, we will do the thermoplastic same way it is now. The city bike pit plan and the draft one is being prepared now. The outreach phase is completed. So the draft plan or pieces of it or the whole thing, we will bring it to be back next meeting. Yeah. Especially some parts that are like the project list and priority, those things we will bring it to.
That will be the first time it's reviewed, is our meeting.
Well, we presented kind of the concept, the prioritization, the goals and stuff. Here is the draft report, but before we go to council.
Great.
We want your feedback on all of it and or some part that we feel is important, your feedback. The Embarcadero one-way pilot was implemented in on January 12th. It's currently in the northeast direction, traffic only allowed. So from Mission, it's not allowed. We have a lot of positive and negative feedback. So some people think this is it. Although this is a pilot, we're collecting data. So they're kind of based on comment, we want to do another pilot in the reverse direction and get comment there too. So currently this week we're collecting data on the one way to see what's the impact on surrounding street. And we did that before the pilot one way. So we have that data, we can compare it to this, and then we will implement the reverse direction. On Lincoln, it wasn't in my notes, but since the AI study on Lincoln, so we have 2 projects, which is installing RRFP. It will be constructed any day. The contract has been awarded, Wilson and Brookville. But you saw the example on the study with rubber curve and all those things. And then we have the other project, which is HSIP. It's 8 intersection, and we are currently reviewing the proposals. So once we review proposals, interview, then we can award the design and obviously some of the elements here. Mostly, I thought it's, some of them they don't even have a pass on. Just signal on the side, and also they don't have protected left turn, separating pedestrian faces. Those are all, and then some element I'm sure the transit agencies, they have to review it and they will comment. So some of the concept you saw might come, and we will see how much we can accommodate. And some of them we might not be able, because it's as in the application have a lot of details of what we do. So if it's a scope outside it, unless we have other source of fund, we couldn't really. I'm sure we can do the signal priority. It has to be a separate thing for transit. On St. Pedro, we are doing the pavement management plan, and it will be presented in next meeting. And we're coordinating very closely with the county. We're doing some other studies. We have grant for improving tree intersection with which is currently crossing. So we will add RRFP and probably some quick bulb out with rubber curbs, things like that. But we have also more grant. I don't want to say anything, wait for Gray will present in the next.
And you're talking about Point San Pedro,
Points at that. Yeah.
bulk build outs. Build outs you talked about for pedestrians.
Yeah, pedestrian. Counties actually start construction on Summit, that's a county
Mhm.
intersection.
Yeah.
They're installing a hub, so they start construction last week, I think.
I think there's
Started
blur-
construction already.
Yeah, it will take a while because they will do the necessary
They already have the
thing,
grant.
foundation. Yeah, they had grant, they had plans. But they have to wait for the poll. It's like 6 months wait time. But they will do the groundbreaking, do all the conduits and foundation, all those things.
Wasn't there slurry sealing scheduled sometime?
That's what he
Yeah.
was talking about, the pavement
That's
management
pavement
program.
management, yeah. The county and us will do the same.
Right,
thing.
right.
And also reduction of speed. That's also coordinated, so. Next meeting, that will be included in the.
Okay.
All right,
That's all for me.
great, thank you. Any questions or points of clarification? No? Okay, that takes us to commissioner reports. Any reports of meetings, conferences, or the likes attended by committee members? Okay, nothing to report. So that takes us to our open time for public expression. As a reminder, we have allocated 2 minutes per speaker, and it's intended to be for matters not on the agenda tonight.
I'm the person that sent the two
Great.
letters in, so I would like to read
You're
one of them.
Ken Dickinson.
Yes,
For the
I
record,
am, yeah.
yeah. All right,
Rafael Meadow.
welcome.
I'd like to read one, publicly if I could, which is the first one. So I'd like just to raise this issue that I believe falls directly within the committee's expertise, the adequacy of bicycle infrastructure in high-density residential projects. I'm referring to the recently approved 700 Irwin Street, which is at Irwin and 2nd Street. The project includes 200 residential units, but only 60 bicycle parking spaces, a reduction of approximately 78%. The downtown plan, I think, required 271 bicycle spaces from what would normally be required under the downtown precise plan. Regardless of how the project's density was approved, the transportation implications are straightforward. A 200-unit building in a transit-served area will generate significant bicycle demand. We are planning for mode shift and investing in bikeways like the Civic Center Drive improvements on tonight's agenda, then high-density housing should reflect that commitment. In this case, extensive mechanized parking has been provided for automobiles, effectively creating a vertical parking structure. Space efficiency justifies mechanical car parking. It seems reasonable to ask why the same design logic was not applied to bicycle storage before reducing the requirement by nearly 80%. Mechanical and stacked bicycle systems are widely used in dense transit-oriented housing. For granting a major reduction in required bicycle parking, it would seem appropriate to evaluate those options. When bicycle parking is undersupplied, residents do not stop owning bicycles. They store them in units, corridors, balconies, or other unintended spaces. With the growing use of e-bikes and lithium-ion battery charging, that can also have safety and operational implications. I would respectfully ask this committee to consider whether it wishes to provide input to the council on bicycle parking adequacy standards for high-density housing, and whether reductions of this magnitude are consistent with the city's adopted mobility and active transportation goals.
Thank you.
Well written.
Can I add an item to the agenda?
Well,
For next agenda? Yeah, for our next agenda. Yeah, sorry, our next meeting, a recommended item.
why don't we see if there's any other public expression and then we'll
sure.
come back to that. Were there any other
Sorry,
comments
yeah,
or points of expression? No? Okay, yeah. So go ahead, Phil.
Potential agenda item, city council has moved to allow 10 minutes of public comment at the beginning of the meeting. I think would be useful for us to do the same thing again. We've done it in the past, we moved it when we had to, or getting in line, so all those normal justifications. People would like that. We add that to our agenda for next.
Yes,
There you go. Thank you.
Sounds
I
great.
would, yeah, I would support that. So, I'm glad you read this into the record.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well,
Just a question for staff regarding the last comment,
Yeah.
if you, I guess I'm wondering, I mean, I don't know the circumstances through which the reduction was applied. Is that something where the developer, was entitled to a waiver on anything?
It's not on the agenda, so we can't comment on. public
Okay,
comment.
I wasn't looking for an action, I was just wondering if I was just looking for a clarification of what these requirements are, or what they're allowed to do. But we don't have,
Yeah.
okay.
And you just can't tell us.
I was trying to read a very lengthy email about it, but.
right. Okay, well, if there's nothing further, then I think we'll adjourn the meeting. So thank you all for attending. The next meeting will be April 8th at 6 p.m. So we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It's now 7:59. Good job, everybody.
Well,